I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. In terms of accountability for the safe operation of each bus company, clearly the managing director of that bus company takes that responsibility. In terms of the safe operation of London bus operations, I take that responsibility because we let the contracts to the 10 operators that run those services. It's a London bus with a TfL roundel on the side of it, operated by a private operator. Every single injury and fatality hits me personally because that's my operation as far as I see it. In terms of responsibility and accountability, Tony's here. Tony came to the last session and it was suggested it'd be a good idea if Tony returned to talk about the progress that's happened. But when I meet with the bus operators, I have to say over the last 2 years, the absolute change in culture in terms of sharing between MDs of what they're doing to improve safety has shifted fundamentally. When we first started out on this journey, perhaps 3 years ago, there was a safety meeting that occurred, but it was talking about data and trends, but there wasn't really any discussion around the table about what we're doing to change this. What I see now are managing directors from all companies, and actually we go around the table until every MD talks about their latest initiative, sharing what's working for them. Now, don't forget, all of the bus operators in London are competing against each other for work in London. But when it comes to safety, it's fundamentally core that that needs to be given. So it shouldn't be an issue that you do not share on. So we've now got established a safety forum where people are coming forward and saying, I've trialled this thing in my operation, I don't know how it's going to go, it works for us. Another operator may say, well, I'm not sure that's going to work for me, but it's being shared. The other thing is, in terms of safety innovation, we're trying to get operators to come forward with new ways of doing things because we don't have all of the answers. These groups are part of big owning groups that run rail and bus, and there is lessons to be learned across the industries. And as I have said before, my background is rail, and when I came to bus it was different, but the emphasis on safety from the operators was no different. It was just the challenge was far more difficult. On the rail network, you have an incident, you close the system down, you investigate, you get to the root cause. On the road network, it's very difficult to do that. So the change that we've brought in between the bus operators who were absolutely up for this and TfL is that when we have an incident, a serious incident, not necessarily just a fatality, but serious injury, we will go to site within 48 hours together and we will look at that environment. And we, even if the driver is not at fault, which in most cases they are not at fault in the case of a fatality, we look at the environment and we say, what could we do here to have prevented that happening? And that shared discussion between operator, authority and police is really important for me because it's showing a different level of maturity. And safety culture is about everyone prioritising this and coming to work with that in mind. And we need to make sure, to Sinisa's point, that drivers feel that we have a safety culture shift and that they are safe to report, and that's where we're working towards together as well, because it's important people can say if they're concerned about certain locations on the network or certain practices, and we rely on our operators to have that forum with their drivers. But we also, I've seen a change in the amount of information coming through TfL. We get shared a lot of information from Unite the Union because we've established a relationship which is tripartite. So we do hear more, and I can see there is a shift in terms of the culture, but it is a really long journey. We've got 24,000 bus drivers in London, 6 million passengers a day, 9,000 vehicles on our roads, and it's difficult to get to every single person and really convince them that we're on that journey. But that is my role with the bus operators. So I feel that we are on the right track here, but we have an absolutely phenomenal way to go in terms of the amount of work to get all of these elements fitting together. So the driver training that's just about to be launched is all about the driver and how we help them and they get a feeling for the challenges to our vulnerable road users. But we want them to have their voice about what they're concerned about, and that gets fed back to the operators, and we do something about that. So I just wanted to say all of that just to kind of put a bit of context around what I've seen in 2 years in terms of shift of focus, really.
Just bring in Assemblyman Pigeon's last